All right, ladies and gentlemen, Rangers lead the way. Zach Allred here, and today we are going to be going over patrol bases. So this is one of those pretty large classes. Like there's a lot of info to be covered here. So I'm splitting it into two parts. Part two will be up next week. And another side note is that there's some things in here that are part of the patrol base class that I haven't covered that should be their own class. So we're going to briefly touch on those. We're not going to get too in depth on them, just to keep this relatively digestible and short and I guess relevant. This is a patrol base class. It's not going to be a security halt class or a leaders recon class. So with that, we're going to get right into this. One more thing. This is based off of notes that I took at Ranger School, the Ranger Handbook, and then what I remember we did in Ranger School. So it's not exactly like play by play how the Ranger Handbook tells you to do things. The class that we got a class when I was in regiment before I went to Ranger School from the RIs in Dahlonega, and then again going back and remembering what we did in Ranger School. I was there for fucking 6 months, so I was doing one of these every single damn night. So I've done probably about 60 patrol bases in my time minimum. So yeah, here we go. All right, so what is a patrol base? A patrol base is a security perimeter set up when a squad or a platoon conducting a patrol halts for an extended period of time. And generally, you're not going to stop for more than 24 hours, and you're also never going to use the same site twice. Now, today's class, we're only going to be talking about platoon patrol base. In Darby, you will be doing squad patrol bases. I'm pretty sure. I think they might have changed it to where you return to the squad base every night. Not entirely certain. I need to talk to a recent graduate to find that out for sure. But we will talk squad patrol base in a different video. It's a little bit more relevant to the dudes out there who aren't running around outside of the Army without a platoon size element. Like you still need to know how to conduct some kind of squad level patrol base. All right, so uses. There's a lot of different uses for these. So primarily, it's going to be for rest, refit, and to plan missions in Ranger School. But in real life, you could use it to avoid detection by eliminating movement. So if you were being hunted, by an enemy patrol or something, you could set up a temporary patrol base to eliminate movement and just see what happens. To hide a unit during long reconnaissance. So if you're doing consecutive small recon patrols and you needed a base of operations, again, no more than 24 hours, to perform maintenance on weapons, equipment, and to eat and rest, to plan and issue orders, to reorganize after infilling an enemy area, and to establish a base from which to conduct operations. And talk about site selection here, which is a pretty important thing. In Ranger School, you don't really pick your patrol base site. It's all picked by the RIs because of the way that the way that Ranger School works is like they have to kind of know where the platoon is. Like they're not going to just let you pick some random spot. Like it's going to be by a road because the RIs have to get in and out to conduct changeover. There is going to be, a water buffalo, which isn't technically a full, actual water resupply. So you're not going to be picking your own patrol base site in Ranger School. I'll make that very clear. But you will be if you were, doing this outside. I know Ranger Regiment has actually conducted patrol base operations in Afghanistan before. So this is, actually, more applicable for that. Sorry, that was a tangent. So the leader of the patrol is going to select a tentative site via either map or aerial reconnaissance. Suitability needs to be confirmed before the unit occupies. So that's what this whole lesson is going to be about. Plans must include an alternate site, and that will be used if the first site is unusable or if the platoon or patrol must unexpectedly evacuate the first patrol base. So that's part of your compromise plan, which will be in part 2. All right, planning considerations. This is the part of the bread and butter here. So it needs to be located, obviously, somewhere that the unit can accomplish its mission. So it needs observation posts with a comms plan, so LPOPs, which we'll talk about, a platoon fire plan, an alert plan, a withdrawal plan to include withdrawal routes, rally point, alternate patrol base, a security system or security plan, I guess, to ensure that specific rangers are awake at all times, enforcement of noise and light discipline, and conduction of required activities with minimum movement and noise, and then priorities of work. So security measures for your patrol base site. This is the important stuff when you're actually looking at setting up a patrol base. So you need to look for terrain with little tactical value. So that's very broad and it can mean anything. So if it's like, there's like, you don't want to go by roads. We're going to talk, I mean, roads is going to be in here, but you don't want to be like on a hilltop, like a very critical hilltop or near a critical hilltop or near like an intersection of roads or trails off of national lines of drift. So what that means like if you were just to walk, like there's certain patterns that humans take when they're walking terrain that you kind of just fall into these, either trails or like kind of like draws maybe where you're walking and you kind of just naturally canalize into a specific area and you want to be not anywhere near those, both for, not being compromised by the enemy or compromised by potential civilians in the area. You want to pick terrain that's going to impede foot movement. So like dense vegetation, preferably bushes and trees that are spread close to the ground. Swamps is actually recommended. I've seen that recommended places. Obviously, you're going to need to find like high ground in the swamp. But obviously, no one's going to just naturally just walk through a swamp. So if you're able to find high ground in the middle of a swamp, that would be a perfect patrol base site because it would also be near a source of water. So you got to keep that in mind too. Like regiment and the rest of the army is kind of spoiled in the terms of like we have helicopters to bring us fucking water if we run out, or we're only doing one night ops to where you don't need to carry a rucksack and a bunch of water. But this might change in the future. Like we might be going back to more platoon level style movement to contact kind of things where you're not going to maybe have a reliable resupply and you might have to refill from a stream, a river, a lake, so you want to pick something that's like relatively close to a source of water, like 100, 200 meters away. There's not really a specific recommendation on distance away from water, and then you're going to want to obviously pick terrain that can be defended for a short period and offers good cover and concealment. So you don't want to be picking like the side of a hill. Like the side of a hill would be kind of difficult to defend and fight from. You want something kind of, relatively flat and with good cover and concealment, potentially, soft-ish ground so you can dig fighting positions. And then obviously you're going to avoid known or suspected enemy positions. You're going to avoid built-up areas. You're not going to set up a patrol base like, half a mile away from a farmhouse or, a road. You're going to want to avoid hilltops and ridges except for as needed for maintaining comms. And you're going to avoid small valleys just because it's kind of the same idea of like natural lines of drift. Like a small valley is people are going to, canalize downhill. And if it's a small valley, you're going to be pretty easily compromised. And then obviously you're going to avoid roads and trails. Alrighty. So now we're talking into the bread and butter of actually how to do this. So you've got your tentative patrol base site. Platoon leader has it picked out on the map. Either you're going there to conduct operations or you just finished an operation. And you've planned this patrol base site in the morning prior to the ambush or the raid or whatever, the recon, whatever you ended up doing that day. All right, so you're going to establish a security halt in accordance with your SOPs. So we'll talk security halt here, and you're going to be, this is away from your LPOP. So we're going to talk LPOP. I don't remember ever doing an LPOP in Ranger School. I know we were supposed to, but I don't think we ever did it. But we'll talk about LPOPs, and for the purposes of this, we'll include it. So about 100 to 200 meters away from your tentative LPOP site, and then 200 to 400 meters during the day. So the PL is going to prep the leader's recon team, which is going to include himself, the FO, 3 ammo bearers or assistant gunners. Just one person from the gun team. It can be either. You're not going to take the actual guns yet. And they're probably going to want to bring a tripod. He's going to take the Weasel, the entirety of security squad, and then a saw gunner and rifleman from either Assault 1 or Assault 2. So that's the abbreviation, AS 1 and AS 2. Just know that I'm talking about Assault and not the actual AS. So that's going to be the LPOP element. That PL is going to issue the GOTWA to the platoon sergeant. So go watch the GOTWA video if you're not familiar with that term. And then the platoon sergeant is going to disseminate the plan to squad leaders and then squad leaders to their squads. the platoon sergeant and the medic or another squad leader are going to count every single one of this party out of the security halt as they go to the tentative patrol base site. All right, so here's rough order of movement for Ranger platoon. So you've got your security squad up front, you've got gun 1, you've got your headquarters element, you've got gun 2, you've got assault 1, gun 3, and then an assault 2. So again, you're going to be in squad column fire team wedges, and then it's going to be a platoon column fire team wedge. I'm not sure if that's the actual technical term for it, but you're going to be moving tactically. You're not going to just be ranger filed up most of the time, or you might be on a road, in which case you're going to be using staggered columns. Again, go watch the video on formations and order of movement if you haven't watched that. These all build on each other, so start from zero. All right, so here is our security halt. Move this down. So we've got assault 2, assault 1, we've got gun 1, 2, 3, we've got our security squad, and we've got headquarters squad. So they're going to stop, and this is called a combat football, a combat clit, cigar shape. There's a lot of different names for this. This is one way to do a security halt. There's a few other ways, but this is the most efficient, especially if you're planning for leaders recon for kind of an objective, or for an ORP, like a full-on triangle-shaped ORP, which we'll talk about. We did use this as an ORP in Florida phase quite consistently. However, they generally in Ranger School like to see you do a triangle-shaped ORP. Anyways, so the reason security squad isn't on the line is because they're going to be leaving, obviously, to go conduct the leaders recon. So you don't want to time into security just for them to come back to the center of the security halt and freaking have to readjust security around the perimeter. So you've got buddy teams spread out along here, and they're all facing out pulling security. And we'll talk about like sectors of fire and stuff here, but that's what it's going to look like. And then obviously your headquarters element, and then you're going to have the guns at the apexes, one in the direction of the travel, one in the rear, and then that third gun is going to be wherever the PL deems necessary. So if there was like a fucking road out this way up to the paralleling to their direction of travel, he'd probably want the gun facing and pulling security towards that most likely enemy position. All right, so that's a brief security halt class. All right, so we're talking about clearance now. So once the leader's recon is assembled and has left, they're going to move to the tentative patrol base site in a squad column fire team wedge with security squad, alpha team leading out. And then you've got your headquarters element, so your Weasel, your platoon leader, your FO, and then your ABs, and then Bravo team of security squad behind them. So upon reaching the tentative LPOP, listening post or observation posts, the recon patrol is going to turn 90 degrees and continues to the patrol base site. And then the distance between the tentative LPOP and the patrol base site is it depends on METTC. If it's like over a slight hill, like they don't need to be that far, 100, 200 meters. You don't want that LPOP out there so far that, they're going to lose radio comms or, not be effective if they do, see the enemy or positively ID the enemy if they're coming in. So the reason you turn 90 degrees is a dog leg, so that you can watch, if someone's tracking you, you can watch them fucking come up on you. And then, yeah. So once that recon patrol reaches that patrol base site, the PL is going to leave one ammo bearer at the tentative 6 o'clock position. So we'll talk about clock positions here too. So the security squad then is going to spread out online in front of them with one AB on the far left and one AB on the far right. And you're going to want that line about, 50 meters across in total with everyone. That line, everyone's online, and they're going to be clearing through online about another 50 to 75 meters, walking away from the 6 o'clock element. And then the headquarters element is just going to, chill behind them. And they're looking for signs of enemy activity, and then all of the security criteria previously mentioned. So signs of life, sources of water, trails, looking to see if there's been enemy in the area, like animal trails, like anything that would potentially compromise this site. All right, so here's what we're talking about here. So security halt, We've got freaking headquarters element in the middle. Our leader's recon went about 100 to 400 meters, and they got to their tentative LPOP site, and then they took a hard 90 degrees turn and went another, 100, 200, 300, potentially 400 meters away. I would probably wouldn't go more than 300. That's going to be, more than far enough here. And then this is their tentative patrol base site. Now this is upside down because this is the 6 o'clock. This is going to be the 10 o'clock, and this is going to be the 2 o'clock. And we're going to see what you mean here in a second. So, all right. So this is kind of what we were talking about here. So this is the 6 o'clock position, security squad again, and they're going to start, down here online with an AB on each end. They're going to get online, clear through 50 to 75 meters. And you see here, our triangle is starting to shape. So security squad is going to stop here, and then the Weasel and the platoon leader are going to go around with, as well as with security squad leader, and they're going to see if this shape makes sense, see if there's, enough cover and concealment, see if it's, relatively flat, make sure there's no signs of life, signs of enemy, and make sure that they're not near any roads or anything crazy like that, which they shouldn't be if they did a good map recon. And we can see that our patrol base is starting to take shape here. All right. So assuming there's no security threats, the platoon leader is going to confirm the patrol base location, and he's going to leave the ammo bearers, the security squad, and the Weasel at the patrol base site. This isn't in the Ranger handbook. This is what I recall us doing, as well as the whole getting online and clearing through kind of thing. So that was something specific to Ranger School, and it makes tactical sense as well. So he's leaving the Weasel there because they need a senior key leader at that position, and he's going to help start figuring out gun positions because those are crucial to a patrol base. So the rest of that patrol, which is going to be the FO, the PL, the rifleman, the saw gunner, and that's it. And he's going to leave that saw gunner and rifleman inside that or at that LPOP, and generally they're going to have some kind of radio with them. And he's going to give them engagement criteria, a compromise plan, and the GOTWA. So kind of like when they're going to get relieved, how they expect to get relieved, and then what to do if they see the enemy. Like, all right, hey, do we, dump a freaking drum of saw and break contact? I think you leave an AT4 with them as well. So it could be, hey, rifleman's going to fire the AT4. I'm going to dump a drum of saw, and we're going to break contact back to the patrol base site. And then the platoon leader and the FO are going to return to the rest of the platoon and then start to guide them to the patrol base. All right, moving out from the security halt. So Assault 1 is going to lead out with the PL, followed by Assault 2. Once they reach the 6 o'clock position of the patrol base, the Weasel and the platoon sergeant are going to count all the members into the patrol base. So the Weasel is going to know the count of how many dudes that he's got, and he's going to team up with either the platoon sergeant, the medic, probably going to be the platoon sergeant, and he's going to count the rest of them into the patrol base. Assault 1 is going to get online, and they're going to occupy from the 6 o'clock to the 2 o'clock position, and then you have Assault 2 occupying from the 6 o'clock to the 10 o'clock position. The gun teams are going to find their respective ABs, and they're going to establish gun positions at the apexes. So when they're on bipod, they're going to be on 40 degrees off of the line, and then once they get to tripod, they're going to be 15 degrees off. So if the ammo bearers brought tripods with them, which they can do, they can go right to tripod. If not, they're going to need to wait until the patrol base is considered occupied. All right, so here we go. This is the good shit here. So we've got Assault 1, 6 to the 2, and then we have Assault 2, 6 to the 10 o'clock. And Security Squad has been chilling here the whole time online. And then your headquarters element, which is going to consist of your platoon sergeant, your medic, your FO, all the kind of dudes that don't really have jobs. They're going to just, be chilling in the middle. And this is when you'd kind of get pissed off at at the medic and the FO, because once this is good, like, they're just kind of just being chilling in the fucking middle of the patrol base, falling asleep. So if you need to look at that more, pause the video, go back. So, all right. Once the squads are in place, the PL and one squad are going to inspect the perimeter to ensure that it's good, and they're going to make adjustments as necessary. Those squad leaders are also going to be giving their dudes hasty sectors of fire. Nothing too crazy, just kind of pointing all right, you're from here to here kind of deal. You're not going to get the compass out and get super into the weeds just yet. So after the inspection, each sector sends a 2-man reconnaissance and surveillance team to the center of the patrol base from each kind of leg of the patrol base. So 2 dudes from each of the squads. While this is going on, the patrol or the platoon is on 100% security, and they have their rucks on. They're not dumping their rucks yet. Everyone's on a knee. No one's in the prone yet, because it's still kind of like we don't know, if we're going to stay here or not. We might end up taking contact. We might have, picked a wrong spot, and there actually is enemy in the area, and we need to be able to bounce out as soon as possible. So this is the shitty part, because people are fucking taking their sweet ass time getting these fucking patrol base legs set up perfectly, and you've been walking all day, and you're wanting to dump that rucksack because it's 80 to 90 pounds, and the platoon leader, some officers just fucking around trying to make it a fucking perfect triangle. Anyways, so those reconnaissance surveillance teams are going to come into the middle, and the PL is going to brief them on the recon method and criteria. So they're looking for water, signs of enemy, roads, trails, possible rally points, all the same kind of shit that they've been looking for this whole time with this initial patrol base site. Now the PL is going to direct when those teams leave, and typically only one is going to leave the perimeter at a time, and whichever leg they're going out of, that squad leader that belongs to that leg is like, hey, reconnaissance and surveillance is going out. Fucking obviously don't shoot to the front if you see shit going on, because it's fucking friendlies out there. A pro tip, depending on your RI and your phase, that reconnaissance and surveillance team can set up the claymores, which is we're gonna be talking about more of the establishment here in lesson 2. But they can go set out the claymores to save a little bit of time, if that's something that you deem as SOP in your platoon, which I think you can get away with that in both mountains and Florida. So there's 3 types of reconnaissance methods. So you've got the post, you've got the T, and you've got the apex. So the apex is literally, you're just going to be with your 2-man team. You're going to be just doing these big, like, kind of cloverleaf shapes. So getting maybe not all the way back to the line, but just kind of doing a good, almost like an S pattern here. And you're just checking from apex to apex, which takes a lot of time, but it's pretty effective. You've got the post method, which you're just going to go walk out however far the PL dictates. So, 25 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, and you're going to sit there and you're going to conduct SILs, which is stop, look, listen, and smell. So you're just going to stand there, look around, looking for all that criteria previously mentioned, and then you're going to walk back. And then you have the T method. So you're going to walk out, you're going to walk one direction, walk all the way back an equal length to the other direction, and then back into the middle, and then come back. So 3 different methods. This one I think is probably the most effective, just because you're getting out there and you're walking, good ways, and you're still kind of going apex to apex. However, the post method is most commonly used because it is quick and easy, and Ranger School students are lazy and sleepy, so they're gonna pick something that's fast to do. So, all right. So, like I mentioned before, the platoon is going to stay at 100% alert during reconnaissance and surveillance. Everyone's going to stay on their knee with their rucks on. And then upon completion of the RNS, the PL is going to take that information and either confirm or deny the patrol base location. So this is really kind of when they make that final decision. They have the opportunity to back out and move to that alternate site. If they ran into freaking, trash from the enemy, or a significant trail or a road for whatever reason that they didn't see on the map or wasn't marked on the map, then they're going to move to that alternate patrol base site and start this whole process over. So they're going to grab the LPOP, they're going to move, conduct another security halt, conduct another leader reconnaissance, and then go through this whole process again. So if he says that it's good, then the patrol base now is considered occupied. So this is a key call in Ranger School. It's like, hey, we're occupied the patrol base, and then the next step is going to be established, which is going to be in part 2. So the PL is going to then make any perimeter adjustments based off the RNS. So he might expand the perimeter, or he might, contract the overall perimeter. And then they're going to start going into their defensive plan, which is going to be in part 2. So a lot of kind of new concepts here. We got security halt, we got the leader's recon. Yeah, so we'll talk. I'm just briefly talk about these legs. So these legs are, depending on the terrain, about 50 to 100 meters in length here. Again, if it's like super dense and thick vegetation, these are going to be a lot shorter. They're going to be about 50 meters. But if you're like in an open area like Florida, has a lot of like really tall trees and then like pretty minimal underbrush, and the big trees are like spread way far apart. So in Florida, like your patrol bases are actually going to be pretty sizable. They're going to be, about 100 meters per leg. I remember there was a couple days where our shits were fucking massive patrol bases. You're spread out. Um, you're digging in, which we'll talk about in the second part of this video. But yep, that's it for this one. Let me know what y'all think. Any Ranger Tab dudes, let me know if I missed anything. And yeah, we'll see you next week with part 2. Have a good one.